That's interesting you say that about the ecosystem because it is a very rich ecosystem, and especially when you bring security in, because that industry has so many acronyms that all have like 30 years of history to them, that shall never be changed. And yet it sounds like what you're talking about with Cortex AI Gateway is a centralization of a lot of that functionality. Can you tell us a little bit, Mayank? Is this something that's sort of an overlay within my network? Let's say it's something that Mitch and I would talk about as the agentic control plane that doesn't care what's under it or who I'm using for log analysis, who I'm using for SASE, who I'm using for firewall, et cetera. It's able to actually work with those to
Yeah.
support that. Is that how this goes?
It's actually orthogonal to, your log analysis and your SASE providers. This is where you go into your agent and you configure, where your model is. So where you configure an agent gate, when you configure an agent gateway, you kind of point all your other agents to this. And so the agents go and talk to this like it were, OpenAI was the first industry standard API that it became the de facto industry standard, right? So a lot of the agent gateways just follow the OpenAI API structure, so to speak, and all the different frontier labs have some small modifications in the schemas in which you talk to their models, right? So this API, this agent gateway supports all of those variations, and so you just go to your harness or your agent platform and say, "Hey, look, here's where you can go talk to a model." So then when you pass it, so then it talks to our agent gateway. Our agent gateway understands what goal has been provided, what the user wants to accomplish, and then it'll say, "Okay, for this sort of thing, I think this model is actually best, right? Maybe you know." A version of Opus is best for this, right? Or a version of Sonnet is best for this, or maybe it's an open source model because you need something super sophisticated, but you don't want to spend money on it, and you've set up some rules like that. So give GLM 5.2 a shot there, right? So these are the kinds of decisions a gateway can make and route you to the correct model for that particular task. In addition, we had just recently closed Natoma, which is an MCP gateway company, right? So that building on the back of that, and you also get the tool governance out of the box, right? So when your agents want to go talk to different MCP servers or other tools, you go through that layer, and transparently, that layer will ensure that the identity of the user is allowed to talk to particular MCP servers and particular tool sets, right? So you don't it gives you that governance and visibility into who's doing what. And there's one other problem, like people have a bunch of shadow MCP servers running all over their real estate, right? and
You're
and
sitting, you're talking to one right now, right
yeah,
there.
fantastic.
We're actually sending this through our shadow MC.
Exactly. So while we're bringing all this under governance, we also think it's important to make life easier for all these developers. So no longer have to run these bootlegged MCP servers, right? We'll give you 100 MCP servers for the most popular SaaS apps out of the box, and it'll be deployed as part of this. So you can just talk to the agent gateway, and it'll route everything to the right MCP server and the right model. So as a developer, you get additional reliability. This thing is not crapping on you all the time, right? So it's like it's running constantly. And because when you start to depend on a certain workflow with certain tools, you want it to always just work. You want it to scale. So there's benefit to the developer. There's benefit to the CISO who's getting visibility and and there's benefit to the CFO who's getting to put cost governance on it, right?